Good morning, good morning, good morning. It's me, Dimakazo Njengila again. Always a pleasure to be here with you guys. So, coming to continue where I left off about Abraham, ne? His story about the fun facts, how he stayed with Noah and Shem, and then the last thing that I spoke about was how he broke the statues of his father, as he was asking, why are you worshiping these gods that you have made with your own hands? They can neither speak nor hear. They can neither even stretch out their hands to take out the offering that you have given to them. And yeah, and then it was just a silly story, nje, and he obviously got in trouble with his father, Abraham, after that. So, continuing from there, Abraham continued seeking the Lord as he was staying with Noah for 39 years, from the age of 3 years until he was around 42 years of age, living with Noah and Shem, learning the statutes and ordinances of God until he started seeking Yahweh, man, for real. Is he the star? Is he the moon? Is he the sun? Because there must be something that I must be worshiping. And at the time, God had not revealed himself to Abraham personally. He only knew of God, but he had not started that relationship of actually hearing from God the way they eventually made a covenant. So, Abraham gets some other key takeaways, guys. I'm going to make this video shorter because I just wanted to give you a background story of why Abraham is so important and why he earned to be in that position that he is as a covenant beneficiary, where God said all the nations shall be blessed through him and his seed. They shall be plentiful, they shall multiply and be kings and reign, and all of that eventually leading to the birth of Jesus Christ, meaning an everlasting kingdom. So it's all of these traits that made Abraham to be this faithful and loyal person. So eventually, um so he came out, ne, of the steed of Onoa and Shem, went to find his own place, and even before he was married, he started listening and hearing from God. And then he took Usara as a wife. We know what Usara umntwana umzala Kaloti, and then making her Abram's sister. So the lies about, oh, she's my sister and not my wife, when they commune together, what's when the Pharaoh ask you and the king ask you, just say you're my sister instead of my wife. Yes, guys, it was just post flood. There weren't many people at the time, and yeah, it wasn't incest at the time because they had to repopulate. So Abraham was a man of his word. Abraham was a man of his word. We know what at some point in the youth, Yaga Ishmael and Isaac, or Sarah commanded that Ishmael be chased away with his mother Hagar. So in the Hagar, no, Ishmael was the fact that Ishmael was an archer. He was 14 years old, Ishmael, when Isaac was born. Ishmael 14 years old when Isaac is being born. So when Isaac was 5 years old, that would mean also Ishmael is now 19 years old. And the book of Joshua tells us, as you remember, guys, in the book of Genesis, when it talks about the brothers of the children of Israel, Joseph, there's a part where it says, and the brothers heard the dreams, and they could see that he's the favorite of Jacob, and they did not live peaceably with him. So this is the situation that was happening between Ishmael and Isaac, although at that time Isaac was still a very young child, because that would mean if you're not living peaceably with somebody, that means even if maybe they're making a joke with you, you can't laugh with them, you're being nasty, whenever they talk to you, you give, negative responses, or with just a bad attitude. You don't speak nicely to them, and you behave in just like an inappropriate manner. So that is what was happening between Isaac and Ishmael. We know what the book of Genesis does not go into details about this, but the book of Joshua tells us what's in that particular day when Sarah said, you must chase this boy and his mother. Since he was an archer, he took his bow and arrow and threw it towards Isaac. 19-year-old Ishmael drawing his bow and arrow, since he's an archer, towards Isaac, so as to kill him, as if he was going to shoot him. And Sarah saw this, and because if you're not living peaceably with somebody, especially in the same house, it's very easy for other people to notice. And the reason why Abraham did not resist and say, "Oh no, I'm not going to chase him away," and things like that, is because he could see everything that was happening. So yeah, and now it was clear ukuthi Ishmael's heart is not really in the right place towards Isaac, and given the opportunity, we could even assume that he could put Isaac to death. Yeah. So that is a good enough reason to chase somebody out. And as Abraham the father, now you can see it's good enough reason. Yeah, because I mean, this is a covenant God. So it's a covenant child that you made with God. So you wouldn't want any Cain and Abel type of situation happening again. So then Abram was a man of his word, because some years later he hadn't seen Ishmael for years. And then he told Sarah, his wife, "Kuti, let me go down to the land of the Philistines," because it says Kuti, Ishmael had moved to stay with the Philistines. Now this is some years later, years later. Already he was married, Ishmael at that time, and had six kids already. And since he now has six children, he hadn't seen his father like since back then. So being a man of his word, he tells Usara, "I'm not going to get off this camel that I'm riding." Because let's remember, Uguti, Abram is an ex of Hagar. So, and they have a child together. So saying to Sarah, your wife, "Oh, I'm going to the land of the Philistines to see my son," and Sarah knowing very well, good, okay, your son is not just by himself, he's with his mama, who is also like, your ex, if we can put it like that. So maybe there was maybe like, I don't know, this is just me assuming from the book of Jesha when I read and when I listen, because what I'm currently doing is an audiobook that I'm reading, but then it's got text that are written on screen. So you get to read and listen at the same time. You can see what maybe there was like some jealousy nyana or mistrust nyana, and Abraham had to say, "I'm just going to see him. I'm not going to get off this horse. I'm not going to get off for anything. I'm going to ride there and come back." So much so Uguti, even when he wanted to drink water. So when the at the first time when Abraham eventually found Ishmael's house, it says he left in the morning, ne, but reached there around midday. So you can assume Uguti, it takes about 4 to 6 hours travel time on camelback for Abraham to reach that place. But because he was a man true to his word, and he said that he's not going to get off even when he was thirsty and asking for water, he made sure that he drinks the water while on his horseback. You may take this thing lightly, ne? Let's say you're going to a friend and you're like, I'm just gonna stay there maybe for like an hour. I'm not gonna take long, or I'm not even gonna get inside. I'm just gonna wait here in the car, or I'm just gonna stand by the gate, or something like that. But guess what? Eventually, you go in and you said you're probably just gonna take an hour, for example. Next thing, you're sitting there for 3 hours. But there's somebody maybe you told at home, maybe like, I don't know, what's it, I'm not gonna stay. Do you know what's it that makes you a liar? All these minor things, they actually count. If you said you're not going to do something, whether it's a minor thing or it's a major thing, then don't do it. If you do happen to change your mind, maybe, but if you've already informed somebody, that means you have somebody that you're accountable to. Whatever action that you're going to make, there's somebody that can hold you accountable for that, and at least inform that person. Because that makes us deceivers. It makes us liars, actually, if we are those people that say we're not going to do something and end up doing it anyway, or saying, vice versa, the other way around. But all of these things were showing what, even though Sarah was not there to see him, Sarah was not there to see him getting off the camelback. And not only that, when Abraham reached that place, Hagar was not even there. They had gone with Ishmael to, wherever they went, and who they found was Ishmael's wife and the children at home. And Ishmael's wife informed him, would say, okay, the people that you're looking for, Ishmael, my husband, is not here. He went with his mother to so and so and so. So even though he did not find them, he still did not get off his back. So do you understand, Wusi? That means his heart is at the right place. He wants to do the right thing, even if there's not going to be evidence. ukuthi he did the right thing, even if nobody's going to see. So these are the type of people that we need to be today. Always do the right thing, whether somebody is watching or not, whether there's going to be evidence of it or not. God sees everything that you're doing, and it actually counts toward everything else about you. It says a lot about you, your destiny, and yeah, we're talking about and how God actually perceives or looks at you. Yeah, bo? So those are that's just one of the things that I believe would see it made Abraham be right. And then the story of Sodom and Gomorrah is much worse than what it says in Genesis, because in the book of Genesis, nje, it just talks about, that evil land that was burnt down with fire and brimstone. But the book of Joshua goes into actual details, accounts that Eliza experienced, that Lord experienced, and some other people, and how the methods of putting to death and murdering that they would do. For example, they burned this girl to ashes, this young woman to ashes, just for giving a stranger water. And they had a principle, but so although they had like a land that was plentiful, they had a river, they it was a good land, but they were stingy people. They didn't want to give strangers any of their food. In fact, if you're a stranger, they would even rob you and even kill you for things they don't even need, just because they can. That's just the evil that they just did. And then another second young woman was punished by, and this was that type of execution, as I'm saying, but it's just so bad. They took ihani from wild bees and they contained them wherever where they contain them, and they rubbed ihani all over the woman's body from head to toe, and they placed her wherever, and then they released those swarm of bees so that they stung her body from head to toe, her whole body. That's a terrible way to die. And it says that her cries reached up to heaven because she was crying and wailing, and they had no compassion. They would just kill people and actually enjoy it. And they even had a judge actually that would proclaim such persecutions, unjust unjust judgments, and a very unjust, evil judge. Eliza is that guy. After Sarah died, Abraham was like, "Can you please not take a wife, for my son Isaac at this time?" At this place, go to the land of my brethren, my kinsmen, and take a wife for Isaac, my son there. And then Eliza, he's been with Abraham from the very earliest days. They've been together for decades. Uyabo. And then, yeah, he's that guy. You read about him in Genesis, the well, Rebecca came eventually. Yeah, that story, that guy. Oh, Eliza and I, at some point, he escaped the hands of evil Sodomites and the Gomorrhian, or is it Gomorrites? So this is just the evil that they used to do. And then instead of that, okay, Abraham said something. He made, maybe we can call it a plus, because he had a plus that had gates on four cardinal points: south, west, east, and north. Ukuthi wherever you're coming from, no stranger is going to pass from this place without entering here. And he made it so big, and even had like employees that were working particularly for the servants, and you would be there free of charge. So whenever you're a stranger, you're hungry, you're thirsty, you don't have enough clothes, and maybe if you're poor, he would even give you pieces of gold and silver free of charge, so that you're well taken care of, and you can even have extra to go and provide more wherever you're going. So he was just the opposite of anything that is evil. And Ishmaeli, naye, he grew up. Eventually, they would see each other from time to time. And the book of Genesis only says that when God said, go, Abram, go and sacrifice Isaac, it just says two other men were with him, two servants were with him. But it does not specify who those two servants are. But the book of Joshua actually says that those two other men that Abraham took with him to sacrifice Isaac were Eliza, that same Eliza, and Ishmael, his firstborn. So Ishmael, since he was not in the right place, in his heart, um, Eliza was like, okay, so Ishmael is like, okay, so I believe my dad is going to sacrifice Isaac. And there's the devil that is involved, guys. You know the devil being the accuser, name. I'm going to get to that part just now. He's like, okay, I believe Woods is going to be put to death, and so I'm going to inherit everything. And guess what? To Eliza, that same loyal guy says, Uti, your father made it clear, and he even chased you away with your mother. Uti, when you're not the one that is going to benefit everything. And since your father doesn't have any other child, I mean, it's just you and Isaac, and Isaac seems to be about to die, that means all these things are going to be bequeathed to me. I'm like a son. I'm the only other thing your father has, and I've basically been his son longer than you guys, longer than his biological sons. Okay, so but how did it even get there for that conversation? At some point, Ishmael was boasting to Isaac, Oguti, I got circumcised. I was there when the covenant came and the promises was made. And Isaac said, don't boast to me about that, because even if I was there, I was going to consent. I was not going to resist. I am willing to even put my life at risk. If God says I must sacrifice not just my skin, just for skin injury, my entire skin or my entire body, I would do it. And devil being the accuser heard those words, and God also heard those words, and they pleased God. Those words pleased Yahuwah. What see, this is how Isaac is talking, is responding to Ishmael, and he actually means it, because he knows how much this God means to his father, and he knows how he came to come about being a child of Sarah and Abraham's old age. Ne? And then this is what the book of Judges says. It talks about Usatani coming and saying, oh, you see, Abraham. So, meaning, okay, since Abraham made a sacrifice to Yahuwah at the time when they were making that covenant, meaning it's been decades, it's been many, many years since then, and Abraham had never made a sacrifice, never made a burnt offering, never made anything. He was just living his life, but a godly life. He was living a life pleasing to God. But the devil came and said, according to the book of Jesha, you see, Abraham, now he doesn't make any sacrifices or burnt offerings to you anymore. That means he was only praising you because he wanted a son. That means he was only making a burnt offering to you because he wanted a son. Now that he has a son, can you see that he actually doesn't love you? He doesn't care about you. He hasn't even remembered you. All he does is being all fancy, and being a philanthropist to all of these people, building stuff to people, all these farms, giving away all the wealth that you have given to him. He's giving it to other people just like that, but he has not given anything back to you. This is the accusation that the devil came with. And then God was like, okay, so now that you've considered my son Abraham, what is it that you want me to do? Do you want him to make a sacrifice to me? And then guess what? Satan was like, yeah, let him make that sacrifice to you. So you know how God's plans really, they always supersede anyone. God is like, he's the only one. The devil can try to be like God, which is what actually brought the fall in the first place. He was trying to be like God, but he can never be. He's not omnipresent. He's not all knowing. He's not omniscient. Well, omniscience is omnipresent, but he's not all that. He's not almighty. Or Satan, he's very limited. But knowing God, would see, he already knew the plans that the devil has, and he has a plan of his own. The same time, that sacrifice here, Isaac symbolized what God was going to do with his son Jesus Christ, being God's son and him coming to the world to die for our sins. The devil did not know, this was actually going to be symbolic, something that we would be talking about today. He thought that he wants to destroy Abraham and his seed. He thought that since Abraham is now raising a God-fearing generation, and he can see this Isaac is so pure, the devil's intention was to get rid of Isaac. And seeing Sarah had like zero chances of getting pregnant again, she was already old, she was already in her hundreds. She was 96 or so when she gave birth to Isaac. So at that point, she's already way older, and yeah, she wasn't going to get pregnant again, you know I mean, probably, but yeah, the chances were slim. And that's what the devil was counting on. Would okay, I'm going to kill this child, and I'm going to ask God to make his father do it for me. So yeah, the story goes on, and guess what? Satani tried that thing, and then God consented to it and asked Abraham to go sacrifice Isaac. But the heart was so pure that it is said that the angels interceded as Isaac was so willing. And Isaac, it says what he even said, oh Baba, fasten tighter, because I mean, what if as you're, like trying to stab me, to kill me, to spill the blood, and maybe what if I shriek or I jump due to the pain that I would be feeling from you smiting me, and I defile the sacrifice, because the sacrifice it must happen quick, chop chop, without any hassles. So just fasten me tighter, fasten me much much tighter than this, so that I don't even try to run away at any point. And they were crying and hugging and all of that, and the angels interceded. They were like, oh but God, they are so pure. Oh, what about your promise? Oh, what about this, what about that? So, guys, when Psalm 91 says Yahweh has given his angels, he has commanded his angels to keep charge over us, to keep us in all our ways, it says that they are ministering spirits, ministering to the heirs of salvation. They are always there. They intercede for us. They are what we call our guardian angels. Yes, guardian angels are actually a thing. It talks about that in Psalm 91. God has given these celestial bodies commission so that they can be looking, well, not really looking after us, but then yeah, somehow like amapurikanyana or security guards, you know, and they actually intercede for us. And that is what happened with Isaac and Abraham. And this is where we get Jehovah Jireh, Yahuwah Yireh, the Lord being the provider. But then Sarah on the other side did not know. This was a secret. Phela Isaac, Abraham did not even tell anybody, but this is how Sarah died. Ne? And I think this is going to be maybe like the final part. As I said, we'll see these are the things nje that made Abraham to be a righteous man. He was so willing to do everything wholeheartedly. Genesis chapter 22, ne, the last verses and the beginning of Genesis chapter 23, it says, and Sarah died, and Abraham came to Hebron to mourn for her, and then went to buy a burial place for her. And Usara was the first one to be buried there. But it doesn't say how she died. Did you know Uguti Usara died at that very same time or that same day when Abraham was going to make a sacrifice to God, sacrificing Isaac? Yeah. So Usara really loved Abraham, Isaac with all her heart. I mean, being Uzinyo Bulala, we call Uzinyo Bulala, and we have a saying that says in Tandane Entle Umakhotwa Unina in isiZulu. So he was the only child and the child of an old age. So yeah, like very. Mhm. So Abraham had to lie, because when God gave that commandment, Abraham was like, what am I going to tell Sarah, my wife, about Isaac? Because she's not going to let me go with Isaac that far. Isaac has never been out of his mother's side ever since the day he was born. Even if he's playing, even if he's doing what, Sarah always makes sure that she's there. And I don't think she's going to agree to this. And eventually, Abraham had to lie to Sarah and say, oh, we are going to a far land. And seeing what Isaac is so grown up now, he needs to learn the ways and statutes of God. I'm taking him to Gaboshem, Nami, where I learned the ways and ordinances of God. There's a priest there. I think but the order of Melchizedek. The Bible talks about Jesus Christ being a high priest, a royal priesthood, high priest in the order of Melchizedek. Yeah, that Melchizedek, that guy, the high priest at the time, people that were walking truly in the ways of God, lineage Noah and Shem. And this is what Abraham lied and said, "Wuti, let me take Isaac there. He's old enough now to learn these ordinances." And Sarah overreacted. Oh, make sure he doesn't get sunburned. Oh, what if the beast devour him? Oh, please, take care of him. And in all of that, she cried and said, "Oh, my son, you're going to a faraway place for all these many years. I've been with you, I've been your mother. What if I never see you again?" These are the confessions that she was making. And then she cried, and she dressed Isaac very beautifully, dressed with really nice clothes. And yeah, so let's just say she basically overreacted. Let me call it that, as if much something big was going to happen, and she didn't even know. The thing is, she didn't know what was going to happen. She didn't know who Isaac was going to be sacrificed. But just because nje she's hearing good, oh, my son is going to a faraway place, and I've never let him out of my sight since the day he was born, it freaked her out. And the devil capitalized on that. So while so there's other things I'm not going to get into detail about that happened along the way that the book of Joshua tells us about. And then eventually Abraham leaving Eliza, Ishmael, as the Bible says in Genesis that two are the servants, but the book of Joshua tells us what it was, Ishmael and Eliza. There's something that happened there that made Abraham to leave them and say, "Okay, Nina, wait here. I will go alone." So it wasn't just because it was a secret or what he's going to sacrifice Isaac, but there were other dynamics there that include, their hearts and how the devil also appeared and things like that. But then the devil also appeared to Sarah to tell Sarah ukuthi his son is dead. And then Sarah cried, cried, cried. How did the devil come? He came as an old man that came by. "Hi, hey, when Sarah, hey, I saw your husband, Abraham, taking your son to Ndawana Lena, and hey, I heard ukuthi he's going to make him a sacrifice. He's actually going to kill him to make a sacrifice to Yahweh." And Sarah took ama-servants wakhe, she cried, she wailed, nani, and said, "Oh Lord, if only I had taken your place, my son Isaac. If only I would have died instead of you. If only I would be a sacrifice instead of you, my son, that you may live." That's how much she loved him. And these are the words that she was saying. Eventually, she was like, "Okay, but if it is your will, I know Abraham wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't a direct commandment from God. Yes, I am a woman of an old age, nani, but maybe God has a plan, and maybe God is going to make me pregnant again, and I can conceive again and bear him another son, or Abraham." But nje, she did say some negative confessions after that. And upon finding out that Isaac is actually alive and not dead, as the devil lied through that appearance of that old man, she was so happy. We can say in today's term, Snati, she was so happy she had a heart attack. Because she was like, and then it says she screamed and she leaped with joy upon hearing what, no man, because she still hadn't seen Isaac. But then as she was inquiring, trying to go to that place where Isaac is being sacrificed, she's asking around. She took servants, Pale, I needed to go with her. She's an old woman, she's rich, and she's got servants, of course. So it's not like she's walking about alone. No, she had people that went with her, and they were inquiring, only to find somebody said, "What, no man, I mean, that's not it." But then the book of Joshua also says, "Would even the people or the person that told Sarah, would that's not it," was actually the devil again saying, "No, actually, he's not dead." They went wherever, and upon hearing it, would she's not dead, she died. Yeah, heart attack. She became overjoyed so much that it died. But then at that time when she was dying, remember she said, "If only I could take your place and die instead of you." Ne? The angels are also interceding on the side for Isaac. "Oh God, don't kill him. He's righteous. He's this. Ne? And Yahuwah said, "I will provide a lamb that will go in place of Osar. I mean, in place of Isaac. Ne? At that same time, Isaac, that thing, so Sarah already took God's place and confessed that she would be a replacement, she would be the ram. If you get what I'm saying, guys. And while she was saying that, Abraham was also praying, "Oh, thank you, Lord. for the sacrifice, and then obviously untied Isaac and put the ram in the sacrifice. And as Abraham was making that sacrifice, Kepela, killing the ram, making the burnt offering, he was saying, let this blood be a replacement, let this ing be a replacement, and all of the things and the prayers, Oguti, these are a replacement, and let anything, whatever, be a replacement. And thank you, Lord, for making these be a replacement instead of my son. But see this and see my son instead. Don't just see a ram, um, and don't just see a ram's blood, but see Isaac's blood and all of those things. So yeah, basically we can say Usara killed herself unintentionally, or the devil used her confessions to kill her, and she died in place of Isaac, as she has confessed. So Nebongutsama confessions are also dangerous. So upon coming down that mountain, that high place of the sacrifice, only to find out Sarah had gone wherever and she had died. That's the reason why Genesis talks about the sacrifice, Isaac, Nani, and then just after that it says, and Sarah died, and Abram came to her to mourn for her. So that there's those things in the middle that they are not saying how Sarah died. So we need to be careful of what the confessions that we make, guys, and we must not supersede ourselves beyond God. Everything is in God's hands, and I understand. I am a mother myself. I am a mother, and I would believe, or would see, it would maybe come almost like as a second nature to want to take your son's place of hurt. I mean, Mina, I got burned in December 2022 on my leg. But then my son had like really serious burns in February 2018, and he was in the hospital for a really long time, and for some months. And even he came home, and then he started going to the hospital twice a week and then once a week until eventually he got healed. And it would pain me. I still have pictures and videos from that time, and it would pain me seeing my son in so much pain, in bandages and all of that. And shame, I can also say, would say, I wished I could take his place. I wish he didn't feel that pain. I wish I could like take it from him, because I couldn't imagine the kind of pain that he was feeling. Yeah, well, so I think it would be normal, but then it's actually not, because God is God, guys. God is God, and He does everything for a reason. And by us thinking in such ways or making such confessions, we are coming in covenant, we are coming in agreement with evil spirits, with the desires of the devil instead of God. And we pollute, we derail our destinies and where we are supposed to be. Because really, when you're looking at it, Usara had literally no reason to die that day in particular. And for that reason, Sonje. Yeah, and Abraham and I was like, oh well, it happened, it happened. Yeah, bo. So these are the things that qualify Abraham. So this video is much longer than the one that I made, but yet it has less information. But I just wanted to drill in deep on some of these key points. And yeah, God willing, I'm going to come again with some other people. Like, I know I said I'm going to talk about Nimrod and his character and some other things about him, because the Bible doesn't really say much, but there are other texts that talk about him. So, by the grace of God, I'm going to be coming with that. And I also want to talk about the sons of Jacob. Yeah, the Israelites, Abu Simeon, Levi, Judah. It's very interesting. Also, Uguti, why Ujudah? Remember, Judah is not the firstborn. He's not the firstborn. Reuben is the firstborn. Ujudah is not even the second born. But Judah is the one that we know today as Revelation. We call Jesus the Lion of the tribe of Judah. Even King David is from the lineage of Judah, a descendant of Judah. So how did it even come to be? Why Judah? Why not the firstborn? Why not the secondborn? Because I think Judah is like the fourth born, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, and how he also came to be the one shame that is deserving to be the forefather, the ancestor of the Christ himself. Big, juicy stories, guys. Please do like this video, subscribe to my channel, and share it with your friends and family. Praise Yah, hallelujah. I'll see you on the next video. Thank you.